Hi guys, this is Tux and you're welcome to another episode on Japa. Should you stay or should you pack your bags and take your leave? I had a heated argument with a friend, more like a discussion about my last video where I was, encouraging you guys, especially the Nigerian youths, about Japa, that if you have the means, then it's best of you to leave. I emphasize the wide economic gap between Nigeria and many other world countries. I also highlighted the issues we currently face as youths, constant threats to our life, due to the terrible decline in the security systems in Nigeria. Well, one thing about life is that we learn every day. So I got to learn a lot of things from that discussion with my friend. During the argument, he actually made several points which I would like to also share with you so you can also gain further clarity. So before we move on to the next topic. So, and by the way, in case you're not aware, if you disagree with my opinions, feel free to hear them in the comment section, or perhaps you can scan the QR code on this video so you can also send the video to the contacts that will be provided, and you can also share your video in the comment section if that's possible. By the way, so this is just supposed to be like a discussion. It's not just to be me bombarding you with information, telling you what to do and all of that. It's meant to be a discussion. So yeah. So one of the things that we came to, conclusion on during the meeting is that we actually enjoy some advantages with taxing, if we are being honest. In Nigeria, abroad, they are usually taxed on almost everything, and that raises, it raises the cost of living, and any more usually doesn't mean a better quality of life. I think there was a time I was even considering traveling to the UK, and I had a friend then, kind of girlfriend-ish. So we were talking about moving together and all of that. So one of the things that we spoke about was how we're going to manage each other, because we are both studying MBBS. So how we're going to be, managing funds and all of that. And then she was talking about how like the prices of the cost of living and all of that. And to be honest, for someone who is a resident doctor that is just moving there, it's quite expensive. It's quite expensive. Not to now talk of the average Nigerian, you will be like, say, just the good there for the first time. No, be say you get one reservoir of money. We be like, say that they remit money to you and be on intervals. So taxes and these things actually raise their money. You pay tax for where you park your cars, you pay tax, and it's even terrible in some countries. I don't know. I think it varies by percentage. So in the UK it's very high, in the US it's lesser than the UK, but it's also high. In other countries it's ridiculously high. I've forgotten, is if this country, I've forgotten the name of the country now, but taxes, they make a lot of difference. In Nigeria, I'm sure some of you people are not even paying tax. Like, although now it's something you really don't really have a choice about, because when you transfer more than 10k, they deduct 15 naira. Although I think there's a bit of fluctuations with that thing, because there are times it doesn't actually deduct. I don't know, maybe Nami no notice, but that's fine. But but in the end, you actually pay taxes, but it doesn't really affect your quality of life. They're removing 15 naira from 10k, like that's not really a lot. But then compared to these countries where they remove a significant amount of money, and it's crazy. Yeah, so that's actually very important. Now, settling down abroad is also another major challenge that people face, is another major challenge for young individuals trying to move abroad. So there are many immigrants that are struggling to find accommodation or stable jobs, and some people even end up homeless. Now, relocating can, also require more money than we actually think, because of the high cost of living and the exchange rates as well. So these things are also very important. Another thing he spoke about was on inflation. How inflation is not unique to Nigeria. It's actually a global issue. Although I didn't really agree with this one though, because the inflation we are talking about here is much worse in this country compared to countries like Ghana, like UK, like the US, like Germany. So even though it's actually, not just Nigeria, it's more significant here in Nigeria because we lack the systems that are supposed to buffer the effects of inflation. So when there is inflation, it affects us terribly. And that's the problem. So inflation is everywhere. That's not the point. It is the fact that inflation affects us more. He then spoke about this thing that I thought is actually his punchline, and it's very important that Nigeria actually still has opportunities for people that have capital. Capital is basically the original money you have before that you put into something, the money you have to put into something. So if you can gather enough money for traveling to the US or to UK, for example, for anyone going into the US, you will not spend less than 50 million naira to get there and get settled. Although I pointed out that countries like Ghana definitely would not be up to that amount, but it's worth considering, that you invest that money in a solid business here in Nigeria than traveling abroad. And that could even produce better long-term results than starting from scratch abroad, holding on to hope alone that, might not even work in the end of it all. So I think this thing actually depends on your niche, and that is what you actually do. For example, some professional and white collar jobs, like doctors, lawyers, for example. Many doctors actually don't know more than their books. They know sabi more than their book. So all this stock exchange, forex, so shortlets, so buying shares and all of that, they know sabi am. So in those situations, Japa would definitely be a better option, because staying back offers you absolutely nothing in all these jobs, and I mean absolutely nothing. Then another point that he also emphasizes is that jobs abroad aren't like we actually make them seem. Like once you get there, job will just fall from heaven, it will just fall and enter your lap, bam. It doesn't just happen like that. And although it's actually significantly better than the Nigerian situation, however, jobs will not land on your lap. You still have to prepare a strong CV, you still have to attend interviews, you still have to compete with white applicants. Highly qualified people sometimes don't even, get these jobs. They stay searching for a very long time. So you will just they go safe, you go actually they very stressed. So, and again, if you actually become successful to an extent in Nigeria, there's an extent to which all this insecurity, hardship, and all the rest actually touch you. In Nigeria, it is in no way for poor people's situation.
God have mercy upon us.
It is in no way for poor people's situation. But if you have that capital, it will be more profitable for you to invest in stocks, for you to buy shares, after consulting different stockbrokers or sources anyways. You can involve yourself in buying of, or renting a house with the capital you otherwise would have used to travel, and you can then use the house for shortlets, which will yield more profit over time. So there are many things you can actually use money for even in Nigeria rather than traveling abroad. And this capital again, doesn't stop you from doing the job that you originally got the capital from. So the difference with that is that if you are traveling abroad, you are actually using that capital to travel. But here in Nigeria, you can invest that capital in something else while you still keep on doing the job. So money keeps entering, there's still a continuous stream of money, while the original capital which you had can then be used, to generate this passive income from stocks exchange, from different sources of income like that. So that actually also helps. So traveling might not solve everyone's problem, and for the young person, it might not be advisable for it to be your first resort. Emphasis on first resort. It can be your resort, might not be advisable for it to be your first resort after gathering capital. Success is very much possible and accessible for people with capital in this country. And in the end, that's what actually that's why the rich keeps getting rich and the poor keeps remains poor. The difference is flexibility with capital. And perhaps the most important thing, I'm ending with this, I learned from the discussion is that there is actually no universal pathway. For some people, Japa may be the way. It might be best for your financial and it may be the best financial and personal decision they will ever make. And for others, staying back, building businesses, investing wisely, and taking advantage of opportunities here may actually produce better outcomes. The right decision depends on your skills, on the amount of money you have, family situation, risk tolerance, and long term goals. So, again, if you enjoyed this, remember to like, remember to comment what you think, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Peace.